Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Jewish Stripper, Raw and Real with Alla Kaplan. I'm Alla Kaplan, in case you can't tell. In any case, today, first of all, thank you for all the subscribers, followers, listeners. I love you all so much. I'm actually a little excited because I had an analytics this morning. I had 55 downloads in 24 hours. That what's a little bit crazy and shocking and surprising. So thank you, everybody. So happy Passover, happy Easter, happy everything, whatever you celebrate. And I have a very special guest today. Her name is Darcie Burtch, and she is a podcaster. She's a mom. She's a best-selling author. And giving you a little bio, she is the uh, owner of the podcast, The School of Hard Knocks with Darcie. If that is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. So, Darcie is the host of the School of the Hard Knocks podcast, NLP practitioner. I'm not sure I know what NLP stands for. What is that?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about that and what that entails. She's a clinical hypnosis practitioner, transformational coach dedicated to helping people get unstuck from trauma and grounded in healing after navigating her own journey through loss, caregiving, and personal transformation. Darcie now uses her voice, story, and tools to guide others toward emotional freedom, self leadership, and lasting change. And through her work, she creates safe, empowering spaces where real conversations happen, helping people move from survival mode into a life of clarity, confidence, and purpose. And she also has two books out, Empower Her Volume 1 and Empower Her Powerhouse Edition. So, Darcie, welcome. Darcie
Thank you
Burtch.
so much for having me here.
Thank you for your patience with me with the
Yeah,
technical stuff. Appreciate it.
no
So
worries.
I'm very excited to have you because you have done so much. So talk about your journey from survival mode to now the healing mode you're in.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite the journey. So, my trauma stems all the way back to my very first memory at 4 years old. So, I grew up in a abusive household with a father that abused drugs and alcohol, my mother and all of my siblings, which there are 8. And then myself, so I'm the oldest of 8 siblings. So that carried
Wow.
all the way through my childhood until the age of 16 when my parents finally got divorced. It was the best thing that could have happened for either one of them because it was very unhealthy. However, my mom ended up meeting another man who was not all that great of a man, and she ended up separating all of my siblings between my dad's family, which was always kind of interesting to me because my dad had his own trauma from the way he was raised, which a lot of us do, right? A lot of us don't break generational curses. We kind of go through life by what our formative years taught us. And so I emancipated myself. I actually initially put myself into the foster care system.
Good for you.
But then I
Wow.
emancipated myself at 17 years old and started paying bills before I was even old enough to vote. So,
So what a story.
yeah,
What
it
a
was pretty rocky for, those years of growing up before
come
you
from
even
a
hit
lot of
adulthood.
tumultuous circumstances.
Yes.
And you, I mean, if you'd rather be in the foster system than at home with your family, That says a lot.
Yeah, that's actually what my caseworker, when I had went to her and said, "This is what I am thinking I wanna do," she said, "I have never had any child ever ask to go into foster care." And I said, "Well,
Right.
I want a chance. I want a chance. I haven't been taught how I'm supposed to enter this world here in less than a year that I don't know." I don't know if you've seen the movie Step Brothers or not, but there's a part.
Remember.
Yeah, it's a real funny movie, but there's a part in it where Will Ferrell is an adult, but he's never been forced to be one. And he's asking his therapist, like, what do I do? Do I carry my like diploma around with me everywhere? How do you adult? And I didn't know how to adult. So
Wow.
that was the
I can
chance I
get I
took.
can understand. I mean, I didn't grow up in a abusive household, but I was molested as a child also by two different people. It wasn't an ongoing thing, but in any case, one of my first memories was of being molested. That's one of my
Mm.
memories as a child. So I can understand, I can completely relate. And so I never thought about emancipation because I just kind of like, was running away from home.
Yeah. Oh, I had done that. I had done that several times too, but then after my parents divorced, my mom separated our whole family up and ended up living with the man that she would eventually marry. And I just did not want to be in that situation. I was able to stay with my mom because I was 16. I was working, I was old enough to do the things, but I did, like I said, I didn't know what the heck I was supposed to be doing. So I thought, well, emancipation. After two foster homes, I mean, I put myself in the first foster home, and that foster home was not good. It's really unfortunate that some people are able to foster children and slip through those cracks of not being good quality foster parents. And then I put myself into
Wow.
a second foster home, and they were really like a Leave It to Beaver family. And I was more used
Wow.
to like the Lifetime movie kind of family. So it was really uncomfortable for me. And that's why I chose to emancipate myself.
I mean, I understand. It's really, I think, I had a guest recently. She didn't emancipate. She was also like a runaway. She
Mm,
ran away. There's an couple episodes ago. And, she actually is also a former stripper, and she's a Messianic Jew.
mm,
So that was very interesting. But she was a runaway. She started running away from home at like 11 years old or 10 or 11 years old. And then I think she ended up eventually in Dallas. And apparently, so in Texas, and I guess in Texas, the emancipation age was like 15.
mm.
So she was like, "Oh, you can't make me come home." She was from Florida, and she was like, and it wasn't an abusive family or anything like that. She just, she had a younger sister, and she was kind of paved the way for her sister. She All the things that she went through as a child, she just wasn't happy in the
Yeah.
family. And so, then the parents were saying, "Why can't you be like your sister?" And she was like, "I broke all the ground for my sister. I broke the ground for her so nobody messed with her because of me." So anyway, she emancipated. She just said, "I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm not coming home, and you can't make me because I'm emancipated."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's sad that, people go through that and have to do that, but, it is what it is. But,
Absolutely.
so after you graduated from high school,
Hmm.
yeah, and so, your journey after, the foster care, what how did you survive? And you were living on your own then and paying bills, and is that what you were doing?
Yeah, I was actually delayed in graduating from high school because after my parents had divorced before my mom separated my siblings up between my dad's family. She unfortunately reverted back to being like a 16-year-old and was just leaving and not coming home. And I, like I said, am the oldest of 8 siblings, so I had to stay home from school to get some of my siblings off on the bus and then stay with the ones that weren't old enough to go to school yet. So I ended up being delayed in graduating, but I actually met my husband at the ripe age of 19 years old. So I wasn't even
Uh,
graduated yet when I had met my husband, and I had already been evicted from the first apartment that I had been in. I mean, I dealt with a lot of alcohol abuse from the age of probably 16 to, I mean, 30 is even before I started to get a grasp of not numbing myself in an unhealthy way. So my husband and I, we were engaged for 6 years before we actually got married. I wanted to make sure I could put up with all of his stuff and he can put up with all of
right.
mine.
That's very, very smart. That's very smart. Yeah.
It was a long engagement, but this August we will be together for 27 years and we've been married for 21. So, after meeting my husband,
For a long time before you
yes,
to make sure that you can put up with each other's BS
yes.
forever.
Yeah, I want it to be a one and done like my grandparents, like literally till death do us part. We're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna make it through everything together, and we have. We have. I mean, there's been a lot of chapters that have happened, obviously, in 27 years, but I didn't really start to authentically become who I am now until I was 40. And it took having to go through, more trauma as an adult. At 39 years old, my dad became a survivor of a workplace shooting. So that really changed like the game with everything, like my dad and I have worked really hard at that point, probably from the age of about 20 until he was shot. So almost 20 years that he worked really hard to make up for the bad dad that he was when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
he, showed up, he was there, he was supportive, and he was shot. And he ended up with a brain injury from the
Oh
way he
God.
fell after he was shot.
Oh wow.
So that brain injury took him into rehab for just about 2 years. We tried to get as much of him back as we could. And he was there mentally, but severely physically disabled. So he came back home and lived with my husband and I for almost 4 years. And we were 24-hour caregivers. So we would get him up in the morning, take him to the bathroom, shower him, dress him, feed him. We did all the PT, OT, speech therapy, allowed my dad to live, his best life. We took him to concerts, outdoor venues. I mean, we literally did everything we could, and then
You're like a
unexpectedly,
handful.
yeah, yeah.
It
And
was
then
like your child.
mhm, yeah, yeah. Unexpectedly 5.5 months ago, I found him deceased in his bed. And it
So sorry
was
for your loss.
thank you. Yeah, it was unexpected. Everything was really great. It God's timing, and that's just
Yeah.
what it is. So that's my newest what I'm making it through
But it's
currently in my life.
wonderful that you got to heal that relationship
Very much.
before. That's, a big deal.
Very much.
Yeah, because I didn't grow up with my dad. My parents divorced when I was, like, 2 years old,
Mm.
something like that, in Russia. I'm from Russia. So, they, you know, th he was abusive to my mom while she was pregnant. My mom was like, "I'm out of here," and he was abusive just mentally afterward, and so, I didn't have a male presence in my household. I was raised by my mom and my grandmother, and so I didn't have any male influence, any positive and many male influence at all. So, like that, the fact that you had your father and had, that healing is a blessing, such a blessing that you had that.
Yeah, it
So,
really was.
yeah. So talk about you said Okay, so you have what an NLP. I'm not familiar with what NLP is. And you said neurological.
Neuro linguistic programming. So it's basically working with our brain to connect our subconscious to our conscious mind. So I'm able to work with people that are wanting to feel more motivated, more determined, stop an addiction, maybe sugar cravings, help with anger, emotional issues, releasing sadness, fear, grief, pain, a lot of different things that we're able to do
I
with
love
the
it. I need
NLP.
all of that.
Yeah, I'm available.
I may take you up on your services.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great. I mean, it's a great because we all have it in us to do. I'm not doing anything. I'm simply the guide. I'm simply guiding people to the resolution that they're looking to achieve.
Well, it's I'm on Manjaro, so I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to, get those cravings under control. I'm a smoker and on and off. I try, quit and try and quit. And, it's hard. It's
Yes.
hard when you've had that emotional crutch for your whole life, basically.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's and is that your profession, or are you now just podcasting and writing, or you have a day job?
I'm doing all of it. So I've actually worked as an entrepreneur for a decade already. I haven't worked in corporate America for 10 years.
Cool.
So I did a lot of network marketing in my time, and then I started to want to heal from my trauma. So initially, when I started the School of Hard Knocks, it was supposed to be a way for me to come out and stop living in a victim mentality from the things that had happened in my past and to start talking about it. I held a lot of that stuff in because, first of all, I didn't want to hurt my parents. When we talk about these things, even though my childhood was not amazing and my parents could have been better parents, they're still my parents. And I love them dearly. And I never wanted them to, like I said, my first childhood memories from the age of 4, and it is not good. And I didn't want my parents to feel this weight of, geez, I can't believe she still remembers that kind of stuff, or to feel guilt. I also didn't want my 8 siblings that may have been fed different stories and the separation of our family to hear the things that had happened and have that drive wedges in different places of my family. However, this is my journey and this is my life. And I was just a child when a lot of this was happening. So I'm not going to hold myself in this victim mentality and not talk about stories or things that happened in my life because I'm trying to protect people that in those moments didn't protect myself. So that's why the podcast initially had started. And then I started people were resonating and, oh my gosh, I can understand. I've been through things. And now it's turned into this full blown safe place for anybody to come and share their story, to get out of that victim container and move themselves into now they are a survivor in their present time. We like to call it being grounded in our healing.
Yeah, I was on a podcast as a guest, called the lady in the UK. She had a
Mm,
podcast called Victim to Victor.
mhm.
It's a great podcast. It's about healing trauma, about your nervous system. She's Anu. Her name is Anu Verma, and she's into the Reiki and healing energy and all of that. And she's also an author and a best-selling author. And so that was one of my, I think, well, one of the reasons I started writing a book. I haven't finished it in 2020. Still
Mhm.
working. And it's called The Life of a Jewish Stripper, and that's kind of how the podcast got named The Jewish Stripper, Raw and Real, because Raw and Real was taken by 50 million other people. So, in any case, she was I was telling about my how I wanted to become a stripper because of my ex-husband, because that's what he liked, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to be whatever he wanted me to be, whatever I thought is going to, that was going to make him love me, and that was, was it pathetic? Yeah, but that was, I ended up, even though I wasn't raised with my father, ended up marrying a man like my father, a narcissist, an abusive man, all of that kind of stuff. And so in the book, I didn't, I say, I don't want to throw my mom under the bus because I was raised with my mom as a single parent. And, I didn't want to throw her under the bus, but I talked about in the book, started writing everything that's happened,
Mhm.
everything that affected me as a child, as a teenager, as an adult. And, it was someone was reading it saying, this is raw. And so that's where the raw and real part came from. And when I started the podcast, I didn't know if it it was gonna be successful or just for me to be, to heal, to help me heal. But then it started to resonate. My writing, I put some chapters on the website called medium.com from my book, and people reached out to me, and people have reached out to me from the podcast. And so I'm still, in that healing. I think I've healed a lot, but I think the healing journey never ends.
No, it does not. It does not. That's why I say once we get unstuck from the trauma, we're grounded in the healing. And being grounded in your healing is a really great place to be, right? Because life is going to continue to life. It's not
Yeah.
like I think my worst situation, I hope that what I've gone through with my dad recently is the worst thing I'll ever experience. But, God does what God does.
Yeah.
However, I know with me being stuck where I am, grounded in this healing, I can handle anything that comes my way. That's why it's so important to get grounded in that healing because if you don't, you picture yourself getting knocked down, and before you could even get halfway up, life knocks you down again, and you're never getting up. You're never fully standing. So it's so important to work on that self love and that mindset reshift and showing yourself grace and just being so grounded that when something comes at you, you know you've got it. You're not going to get sucked down into this negative rabbit hole where you have to stay stuck down. I mean,
And
trauma
you're a
is kind of like
victim
a
of
corkscrew. If you allow it, yeah.
I'm not a victim of life. Like I had a guest. I was a guest on his show, John Curran, called it's a podcast called A Swift Kick in the Ass.
Mhm.
And what's the swift kick in the ass? Maybe sometimes you need it. And his little logo has a donkey because
Yeah.
he's saying donkey never stops going.
Yeah.
And so that's why he picked, but we were talking about, he talked about how, once every time that you think you've gotten over a problem, guess what? Something new comes up. And I said, yeah, life keeps throwing curveballs at you. It's gonna
Mhm.
just when you think that, that you have enjoy the peaceful moments in between because some life is going to life you, like you just said. The life is going to life you, and it's going to, every time you fall down, you just got to get up. Get up,
Mhm.
fall down 10 times, get up 11. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that's the truth too, and I never would encourage anybody to sleep with one eye open because life creeps in and does things, like that's not going to help us enjoy our life. But
Right.
you're so right. I remember the day before my dad passed away, I was driving in my vehicle and I listened to the Christian station in my vehicle. And music, I have a trauma toolbox. That's what I help coach people with, is
I
different
love that.
tools that they can utilize to help with healing. But one of the tools is music. And for me, it's worship music. Anything that puts my praise hands up, that centers me and reminds me that God's in control. It's a big thing for me. And there's
Yeah.
a song that's called Desperate by Jamie McDonald. And it came on and I was singing it so loud, and I just vividly remember thinking, man, this song doesn't even pertain to anything that's happening in my life right now because everything's going so good.
Not
Like
just for today.
yeah, she sings about being desperate and needing God, and and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not even desperate for saving right now because things are so good." And then right away the next morning
I
I find my
honestly have
dad.
to say I'm not familiar because I'm Jewish, so I'm not familiar with Christian rock or Christian music. But, I mean, a little bit, a little bit. I'm familiar. Actually, my ex-husband was black, and so I did attend with him church, and so I do remember some of the hymns and the song, and, like one of my I think I can't remember the name of it. One of my uh actually, yeah, I remember it. One of my favorite songs was actually I'm coming up over the mountain or
Mhm.
something like that. I'm, it influenced me. It
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why music is in my trauma toolbox, because it can help you shift, in a moment, listening to something that, just like I said, makes you put your praise hands up. You can't listen to hard rock, heavy metal, dance music and expect to feel healed in the moment. It's going to jazz you up. It's going to make you feel like you can go and do something. But these quick shifts like that isn't really what I would encourage people to do when they're healing. We have to be able to feel the moment in order for the next time it comes around for it to not be as tender, right? Like, if we just keep stuffing all of this stuff down, it's gonna just stay down there. That's just what it is. We have to be able to process through these emotions regardless how hard it is, because going forward, it's not going to be as hard. So, that's why it's important to make sure that you're just taking care
Right.
of that emotional self.
When you get to that point where in life, when it's not like you have to sleep with one eye open, but like you said, you have that toolbox already, that when something else comes up, because it will, you're not losing your mind saying, "Ugh, I don't know what to do." You're in a place where you have tools, and rather than looking at a problem from an emotional point of view, you're already at that point where you're a problem solver. As
Mhm.
soon as something comes at you, instead of looking at it as a negative, um, uh, from negative emotions, and then you're in my experience personally, where I've come to the point where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna freak out. I'm not gonna freak out. I'm not gonna lose my mind because, oh, the car broke down or whatever it is. Especially my mom had breast cancer last year. Of
Mm.
course, that was scary. And of course, that was like, um, I had to be strong. I couldn't walk around cry all the time. And we had our own tumultuous relationship when I was a teenager and later when I married my ex-husband, and we were just not, in a good place. And we've healed a lot of our relationship, but things have happened. So I've had to say to myself, okay, I'm going to be the strong one, and I'm not going to sit around and be like, oh my God, what if this and what if that? It's just was like, okay, what do we need to do to to deal with this? That's it. I'm just gonna I deal with it. That I'm at the point in life where I have that toolbox. I'm just dealing with whatever it is. I can deal with it. I'm not going to fall apart at the seams every time that something comes up because it always will.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And I mean, worrying is kind of like sitting in a rocking chair. You know, you're doing a movement, you're moving, but you're stagnant. You're not going anywhere. So it doesn't matter how long that you rock in a rocking chair, you're in the same spot. You know, and that's the thing with when you stay stuck in trauma or pain, grief. I mean, moving through these things, you know, with me, where I'm at 5.5 months since my dad went to heaven. This is the first time I've lost my dad like this, right? This is the
Right.
worst loss of my entire life. I've never experienced this kind of grief and this kind of pain,
I
but I've
can
been walking through it in such a way of knowing. I mean, first of all, I can't control it. I can beg God, I can plead, I can cry, and he's never going to say, "Gee, I didn't realize this was going to, hurt Darcy this way. I'm going to put Bill back on Earth." That's not going to happen. So it's a lot of coming to the realization of what I can control in this situation, which is how I'm reacting to it, how I'm responding to it. You got to show yourself grace in these times and allow yourself to heal properly. But at the same token, I like to say there's no time limit on grief and healing, but there is a time limit on our life. There is a time limit on our life. And when we choose to stay stuck without even making a little bit of progress, some people are in the same position 5 years down the road that they were the day that they lost their spouse, their child, their parent, their friend, whatever it may be. And it's hard. This is the
Yeah.
hardest walk of my life. However, there are tools to help you not stay stuck there. Even if it's just a small step forward, every now and then we're still going forward, and that's the direction we want to be moving.
Yeah, 2 steps forward. I mean, so 1 step back, but 2 steps forward.
Mhm.
I mean, there's, sometimes, we have patterns that we learned that we've ingrained in ourselves, and it's difficult to, unlearn those patterns. But once you start to recognize them, you're in a healing mode. When you're starting to recognize your patterns and not repeating them. And so that I think that helps I think what you're doing helps a lot of people, helps people to deal so it's how I've had a lot of it how you talk to yourself when you said
Mm.
to have grace for yourself. And there's a lot this habit of saying, "Oh, I'm an idiot," or "I'm stupid. Why did I do this? I'm stupid. Why did I do that? That was dumb." And getting out of that negative language and speaking to yourself kindly is a big step in the right direction. That's part of healing, and it's unlearning those behaviors that you may have learned in your family. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe you're not somebody who self talks to yourself like that because it's been a very long time. I mean, I'd have to think of when I've ever told myself I'm stupid or not good enough, and I know people do that. Mine was, "You can make it through anything. You're fine. Everything's fine. Like, put that superwoman cape on. You can make it." And that is such an unhealthy thing to do.
Yeah.
That's so unhealthy because I, for the longest time, had forced myself to just accept. This is what it is, just move on. And there was no time of, "Hey, listen, this is kind of a big deal right now, and you need
Right.
to allow whatever you're feeling to happen." I mean, 3 days after my dad died was one of my first big breakdowns that I had. My husband was playing music. Music was huge for my dad. And I came walking down the stairs. Led Zeppelin was playing. And I knew, don't even look towards the recliner where your dad sits because he's not even going to be there. And I walked out into the garage and I started going, "You're fine. You are totally fine." And immediately my healed self said, "What are you talking about? No, you're not. Your dad just died 3 days ago. You would never look at somebody else and say, 'Why are you getting emotional? It's been 3 days. Like, reel it in.'" And I allowed myself to cry like that. I was scream crying almost. My husband came running out, like, what? And I said,
Yeah.
"It's the music." And he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I said, "No, babe, it's not
Trigger.
you. That's
Yeah.
you're doing, it's just that's what it was." But I allowed myself that moment. I didn't
Yeah.
push it down and put that superwoman cape on and do what Darcy's always done. No, we're done with that. There's no need. This is no competition. Who heals the fastest? Who gets back to the race the quickest? I mean, when I'm back, I want to make sure that I'm back and I'm grounded and I'm good to, go for the duration until life comes that back again and says, "Guess what? Another thing you get to heal from," because it will happen because that's what life does.
Yeah. When we lost my grandmother, I was, self-medicating. I was with my ex-husband. He was at the time, we weren't even married yet. He was abusive physically, mentally, and that was before I was even stripping, and he was abusive physically, but the mental part was, and I was, self-medicating with drugs and alcohol, and I don't think I even allowed to feel myself to feel the loss
Yeah.
at the time, and I think I felt it even more when once I separated from him, because then at that time, I was mourning everything. I was mourning the end of my marriage. I was mourning, that I wasn't really there for my mom at the time when she was losing her mother. I was off in my own world, so I wasn't, feeling anything, and I wasn't screaming, and I wasn't crying, and it all happened, like, years later when it actually, and it's so everyone has their own timeline for grieving, but so I just kinda said it was like, "She's gone," and there was nothing I could do 'cause I didn't get to say goodbye, and there's there was always guilt behind that, and so the guilt just made me self-medicate even more, and so it took a long time, and it took a long time to forgive myself for not being there, for not being for me or for my mom. So, everybody's, timeline it's different.
Absolutely.
Well, I wanted to ask you, so about your, self, you, talk about, your, story and, how do you create spaces for, self-leadership, for people to when people are healing and they are going into a better situation where they're finally maybe, moving on and healing from their trauma, and what does self-leadership mean?
Self leadership is your ability to be able to guide yourself through any situation that may happen because you know your ability to be able to do what needs to be done to keep yourself safe in all situations with the tools that you've learned. Yeah, I talk a lot about this trauma toolbox. My trauma toolbox is full. It probably doesn't look like everybody else's. Mine's pink and kind of shimmery, right? But
Yeah.
when I open it, there's all kinds of different tools in there that I can utilize in those moments. So self leadership is not allowing the outside perspectives, opinions, things that are happening to take you on a detour from your healing.
So talk about the trauma toolbox. What's in you said your trauma toolbox is pink and shimmery
Mhm.
and glittery.
Yeah, yeah, because that's me. But I have different tools in there that I can reach for in moments of scared, grief, pain, sadness. So, like music, I said is a really big one. Anything that can make my soul feel grounded. Sometimes I have to listen to two, three songs before I start to feel that change. After my dad passed away, music wasn't cutting it. So now we're back into the trauma toolbox and we're taking, a warm shower and visualizing all the emotions rinsing down the drain. That's not working. I'm reaching out to who I know my safe person is that's never going to judge me. And I can scream, cry, I can swear, I can say whatever it is that I want to do. I had to actually create a whole new tool after my dad passed away because I actually found my dad and gave him CPR until the paramedics arrived. So it was a really graphic, horrible moment for me. And I couldn't get that visual out of my mind. So when I realized I needed to create a new tool, I started thinking about some of my favorite movies. I really like Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy
Yeah.
is hilarious, right? But there's that one part where he's standing at the fence and the two cops come up and Eddie says to the cops, "Or are you're the new ones following me?" And the black cop says, "Yeah, we're not going to fall for the banana and the tailpipe
Yeah.
trick." And Eddie
Yeah.
mocks them back, "We're not going to fall for the banana and the tailpipe trick." And the next thing you know, I wasn't thinking about my dad anymore. I was visualizing Eddie Murphy in that moment. And then I thought, I think I just created a new tool. So when you can stop that scary movie that's playing in your mind and replace it
Yeah.
with something that's no longer that scary movie, right? So I write about that in the book. I actually give, different tools. I reach for my Bible. I mean, reading the Bible to me is huge. God is center of my life. It has been for a very long time. Or journaling. I mean, journaling for me wasn't super huge during the time with my dad because I didn't want to remember all of it. I knew that that wasn't going to be healthy for me. But you can also take and just write something down just to get it out and take it and burn it
Right.
and watch those, watch it go up and let those emotions just go up in flames. So get yourself an emotional mental toolbox and start packing it with things that you've tried or you've read about or you've learned and start utilizing those tools in the journey.
Yeah, like for me, it's going for a walk or, it might be listening to music, but not necessarily, hymns and I mean, I was a big Prince fan. Still
Mm,
am. I'm a big, big Prince fan. And sometimes, if I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'll turn on Let's Go Crazy.
yeah.
Because it's like, you know what? That let's just, you know what, we're here, like he said, like in the beginning, it's that don't let the elevator take hit the higher floor.
Mhm.
When the elevator tries to bring you down, do you know that song?
Mhm.
Go Crazy?
Yeah.
And he's, in the beginning, it's like, there's how does it go? I'm not gonna sing it. Save everyone I'll save everyone from singing it, but it's I think it's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are here," and there's another place, da 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 da, and it goes, "But whenever the elevator tries to bring you down, hit the higher floor and
Mhm.
let's go crazy." And
Yeah.
crazy to me, it doesn't mean, crazy like you're, psychopath.
Yeah.
It means crazy like, punch the higher floor, punch
Mhm.
that higher floor, go higher. That means the elevation, take yourself out of that low feeling and punch that higher floor.
Yeah, raise your vibration. I mean, whatever your song is, like I can honestly tell you that I'm not listening to hymns and things like that. I grew up with a dad who listened to Ozzy Osbourne and Quiet Riot and Crocus and Judas Priest and so I'm
Yeah.
not over here like "Da, da, da, da." No, I don't. But there are some songs that do hit me differently. But I've really come to love kind of like Christian rock. I mean, it still has that movement
Oh,
to it, but it
right.
touches my soul, and that's all all that matters is you find what works for you to ground
Exactly.
your soul where you are. That's all that matters.
Exactly. So, well, thank you so much today for being you and your positive vibe. And so you have kids and you're a mom as
Yep, we
well.
have an adult daughter and we have 2 grandchildren, one that's 5 and one that just turned 1.
Whoa, how old is your daughter?
She just turned 31.
Oh my God, you don't look. That's like all my guests. I'm like, they have these, my guest, everybody looks so young. Like, when people say they have these grown children, and I'm like floored
Yeah.
because I'm like, you don't even look, like in your 30s or 40s or something.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it was such a joy to have you and thank you. And so again, I want for my guests, name of your podcast is the School of Hard Knocks with Darcie, because there's other School of Hard Knocks.
Yes.
I saw other School of Hard Knocks. So that was one of the reasons, like I said, I became the Jewish stripper raw and real, because raw and real was taken by everybody. And so your books are Empower Her, Volume 1, and Empower Her Powerhouse Edition,
Yes.
right? So thank you so much, and I appreciate you, and we'll keep in touch, of course, and happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciated your time and especially putting up with my technical difficulties.
No worries.
Okay, it was wonderful to see you. And hopefully, are you writing anything else? Are you working?
Oh, I have all kinds of things that are in the works,
Okay,
absolutely.
great. So you can actually come back when you have more, so we can do this again. Or
Awesome.
actually, yeah, and I can come on your podcast too.
I would love that. I would
That
love
would Yeah, okay. So we'll end it at that. And again, thank you for everyone tuning in, everyone for again subscribing, facing follow Facebook follows, and the amazing um I can't even put into words like how I woke up this morning and saw like 58 downloads in 24 hours, and around the world. It was like in I've been in Singapore and China and Japan and Vietnam and Nairobi and all kinds of countries. So thank you everyone who has listened around the world. That just that touches my soul. That touches my soul a lot. So thank you, Darcie, again, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.